We are proud to share this interview with Kevin Dehmer. Kevin is Executive Director of the Heldrich Center for Workforce Development. He is responsible for executive management and day-to-day oversight of research, administration, communications, program development, technical assistance, policy implementation, client services, and project operations. Can you tell me about your educational and professional backgrounds?
Coming to the Heldrich Center is a little bit of a homecoming for me. I did go to the Blaustein School, and which is obviously part of Rutgers University. So I'm excited to be having that little bit of a homecoming. And at the Blaustein School, I received my Master's of Public Policy degree. And during my time there, I also was an Eagleton Fellow. So I've got some ties here, and I'm just really happy to be back in the fold. Prior to my time here at the Blaustein School, I graduated from a small liberal arts school in Minnesota that's called St. John's University. And I graduated there with dual degrees in economics and political science. And I've always been fascinated with the idea of blending data use and econometrics and applying them to public policy questions. And that's really kind of driven my career path. In taking my background of economics and political science and blending those together with the public policy degree at Blaustein really allowed me to do that. From there, I spent the last about 15 plus years working at the New Jersey Department of Education, doing public policy work, really. Initially, I was hired to work on the kind of the quantitative component of what was the still in development school funding formula. And I came in towards the end of that development cycle. There was probably about 6 or 7 years worth of work that went into it. I came in the last couple of years. And that was finalized around 2008. And eventually it was called the School Funding Reform Act. After that was completed, I stayed on with the department to help both in the implementation of that school funding formula and kind of took on different levels of responsibility, kind of grew into more management roles over a period of time. For the last 6 years or so, I served as the Assistant Commissioner of Finance and the Chief Financial Officer for the department. And on 2 different occasions, I was asked to serve as a Commissioner of Education on an interim basis. So I also had the opportunity to oversee the work of an entire agency. The second time that I was asked to do that, serve in that role, was in 2020, which was a very interesting time because we were working to find ways to return students to in-person instruction during really the peak period of the pandemic. So,
please tell me about your new role as Executive Director of the Heldrich Center for Workforce Development.
But generally, I view it as being here to help advance the work of the center, provide day-to-day management of our team, and really to help guide the research projects that we take on. In many ways, I view the job as supporting really the incredible researchers and the projects that are underway. In my short time here, by the way, I've already noticed that the projects that are being worked on have a laser focus on improving things for workers, job seekers, anyone looking to improve their education or training to advance their careers. And this is really essential to what we always talk about, to pull yourself up from your bootstraps. And this is really the projects that we're undertaking kind of meld that all together, but really in a research focused way, but also kind of that translates into a public policy implementation side. So I'm really excited to continue this work and see what else we can do going forward.
You spent 15 years working at the New Jersey Department of Education. What made you want to join the Heldrich Center at this point in your career?
But first of all, it's an incredible opportunity. The center has a outstanding national reputation for its work, and I was excited to join and be part of that process and part of the research focused area in an academic setting. I've been working in the public space and working on public policy for a long time, and the opportunity to kind of work on that cutting edge of learning about what makes good public policy was especially compelling. Um, and also my background and which is primarily in K to 12 education is an area that really fits in well to workforce research, and that it may not be kind of intuitive at first, but before anybody can get a job, you need some kind of training or education. And obviously with our public education system in the US, that's focused primarily on the K to 12, now kind of expanding to the pre-K to 12, which is interesting, and trying to figure out how that education system fits into what happens later, what happens after individuals go through the educational system. Do they go to higher education? Do they go on to other training? Do they enter the workforce immediately? And then what happens later in life for them? Do they need retraining because of changing technologies and things like that? So I'm really interested to see how I can build in my background in K to 12 education into the focus and the research of the Heldrich Center.
Obviously, you just started your new position at the Heldrich Center. Do you have a vision for what you would like to accomplish in the months ahead?
That's great. I am new to the position, so I'm still learning the folks here and learning the systems. But immediately, what I can see is I would like to help advance that work that the researchers are doing, and find ways that I can be of assistance to help them and elevate their work. And what I guess my focus is going to be in the next few months and going forward too, is finding ways to make people aware of really the outstanding work, scholarship, and roadmaps that have come out of the center, that are coming out of the center, and what we can do to help individuals that work in this space or are interested in investing in making our systems better understand that the Heldrich Center has that capacity, and that we're here to help you get there, and just to see what we can learn. There's a lot of kind of untapped areas for research, and how do we dig into those areas to really improve things for job seekers, to improve things through the educational and training programs. What can we do to elevate those systems that exist? What new systems might be beneficial for those individuals? We're going to see a changing economy, because it's always changing. And if there is any kind of economic dip or something like that that comes up, we're going to be looking to find ways to get individuals retrained and into careers that will take them forward for the next decade or more. So I'd really like to emphasize the work that has already happened and is ongoing within the Heldrich Center, and lean on the capacity of the individuals here and make that known. Because I want to, it's maybe silly, but you want to shout it from the mountaintops and make people aware. So that's really what I'm looking forward to most, and in trying to accomplish, both in the near term and in the longer term as well.
During your career, what has been the single most memorable project that you worked on, and why?
Well, I don't know that I can narrow it down to just one, so I think I'm going to have to give you two. I mentioned earlier I worked on the School Funding Reform Act, and that's especially memorable for those that are familiar with school policy in New Jersey. They know that school funding has been a much discussed item for the last 3, 4, 5 decades, and continuing. And so it's always an interesting conversation to have. But the School Funding Reform Act was the first school funding formula to be deemed constitutional in at least 3 decades. And that was a huge accomplishment. And we were also able to spend the next, almost 15 years now working on implementing that and improving it. In 2018, there was a group of legislators that got together working with the executive agency at the time to make improvements. Like, it's not, our work isn't done at any point in time in this work. So we need to continue to make those self improvements, and we did that in 2018, and I'm sure that more will come down the pike on the school funding formula. But that was especially memorable, being able to reach that benchmark and make improvements in how we fund our schools to make it more equitable was especially important in my career. And I just want to point out I said I would give you two projects, because the other one that I had been working on and kind of continue to work on is something that I'm very excited about. And that has to do with where kind of back where I started, the intersection of data and in public policy, and the kind of the data revolution and the expansion of computing power, storage, access, things like that have really changed how people think about problems generally. So you could look at something like Moneyball in baseball, where they applied statistical analysis to baseball to make a more efficient and better performing baseball team. So we're applying that now to every aspect of our lives, and including public policy. But I think that in the public space, we're a little bit behind, because there's not always that foresight or that desire to make those investments. So I'm really looking forward to advancing and continuing some of those projects that have started, and hopefully helping some of our public agencies see how those data systems can fit together, and to move that work forward. Because especially in social sciences, it requires an enormous amount of data to be able to really do research well. And so I'm excited to see where kind of big data can play into this. And big data can be scary, but I think it can also help us answer those questions that we've struggled with for a long time. And having access to all this data now, because technology is advanced, really is a unique time for us. And we're really at the precipice of a change in how social policy is analyzed and assessed going forward.
What activities do you enjoy doing in your free time?
I'm a little bit of a workaholic, so my free time is often spent doing work, because I really enjoy doing these things. But I also have a 2.5-year-old son. My wife and I spend most of our free time chasing him around, which is fantastic, and really one of the most rewarding things in my life. But in addition to that, I do like to do kind of home improvement projects around the house. I'd like to do more. The list keeps growing, but I do like to do that. But really, just spending time with my wife and my son is really what my favorite thing to do when I'm not working.